What up, QC crew? King Day is in the mother building.
Burn it up for sure. JBRISKO, not know when was up. Run that shit, we had all the show. Say that shit for your camera.
Warning. Everything said in this video and on this platform is strictly my opinion and all alleged. Here, we speak about hot topics on YouTube and other social media platforms for entertainment and conversational purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised.
What it do? It's your homie King Day here in King's Corner, and I am back with another reaction video for you. Now look, today we will be reacting to Rashonda yet again. Y'all, every time I react to Rashonda, the comments are so divided. And I feel like she might be a little bit misunderstood, and not only by y'all, but also by myself. So I took a dive on her TikTok page, and I see that she has a section of story times titled My Story. I see a couple hashtags about abuse and trauma, and I said maybe this can help us understand her just a little bit better, especially for those who want to understand her. I know some people are probably like, it just is what it is. I feel how I feel. And I'm the same exact way. But I did find it interesting that she did have her story listed, for us to see. So we're going to go ahead and check it out and see what she got to say, see what's going on, see if we can get a better understanding for her and grow another type of love for her. I love her story times. I don't agree with some of the things that she has done in those story times, but I do like the way she tells story. She keeps my attention. I'm always very engaged, and it just seems like we always have a good time. Now, this story time may not be as good of a time as the ones in the past. I don't know if we're going to have some crying or it's going to get a little sad in here or what, but either way, we just going to take this thing part by part, and we're going to go ahead and get through it, all right? So look, I ain't going to hold you no longer. I never do. If you mess with me like I mess with you, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. We're going to get straight into this video. Let's get it. Let go.
Hey y'all,
What's good?
Today I'm going to be telling you guys the story of how the toxic patterns of my grandmother and my mother basically led to the untimely death of my twin sister. It's mostly on my grandmother's part, but did my mother have a hand in it in some form? And in the way that I tell you this story, I, in my personal opinion, feel like she does, but not inherently because of her actually wanting this to happen. I feel like in some ways my grandmother probably wanted this to happen, but it'll all make sense in the end. And this will also probably have to be like a 2 or 3 part story, because the story that is my life and my twin sister's life is absolutely fucking crazy, and it could actually be a whole fucking trilogy at this point. One night when me and my twin sister were maybe like 6 or 7 years old, we were in elementary school. I don't exactly remember how old we were, but we were in elementary school. We were very, 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 very young.
Okay.
My mom liked to go out, and sometimes when she went out, she would leave us home alone. This particular night, my mom to this day has said that, she had eyes on us from wherever she was, but someone else did as well. By that, I mean somebody else was watching her trailer whenever she left us home alone. So I guess whoever was watching her trailer, as soon as she left, decided to call CPS. My mom did not know this. Well, until CPS got to her trailer, a situation happened where my little brother got out, because I was also a child. I was also trying to watch my twin sister, and I guess I did not realize that he had gotten outside and he was in the middle of the road. Child Protective Services came, and they saw him in the middle of the road. They came, they got him, they came to the door, and mind you, the door was shut that they came through. So I don't know if maybe my little brother got out because my mom left the door unlocked and then shut the door behind him, and then we didn't even notice that he was outside in the middle of the road. But then Child Protective Services came to the door and they said, hey, make sure you pack a bag. We're coming to get you. We're coming to take care of you. They're adults. We're children. I just trust them, and we get our things, and they take us to the car. And I'll never forget my mom running out from wherever the she was, being like, oh my gosh, those are my babies. Those are my babies. Y'all are taking my babies. And this part is a little bit of a blur. But I do remember going into an office of this lady and running around the office with me and my little sister. Remind you, we were still children, and we got put into foster care. Now, I believe we were taken from my mom twice, but I think maybe the first time we were taken from her, I was too young to remember it, because I really only remember the second time we were taken from her.
Okay.
And the very second time that we got taken from her, they put us in a foster care with this lady that took all three of us. But then, for whatever reason, my little brother got taken, and then it was me and my twin sister together.
Okay.
And I think being in this foster home with my sister, with us being in together, it really solidified our bond together as children. Later on, you'll hear about how our relationship got really, really rocky when we were teenagers. But that was completely manipulated by my grandmother. But anyway, we were with this lady. Her name was Miss Cook. I do not remember her first name. I don't even remember her husband's name, but she was an evil-ass lady. Her name was Miss Cook. She's probably dead by now. She was a really old lady then. But my sister could not cope with the situation that we were living in. And I was the more closed off, close my emotions, kind of dissociating twin. And my twin sister, I need to stop calling her that. Her name is LaShonda. We all called her Shell. So for the continuation of the story, I'm going to be referring to her as Shell, because that's what we all called her.
Okay.
Shell had more behavioral issues and more anger issues, and she had a harder time controlling her emotions. She wore her emotions right on her sleeve. So she quickly started to have behavioral problems. Because of this, they ended up taking my sister and separating us and putting her in a different home. I was absolutely devastated. I remember feeling so depressed and so sad that I was with this lady by myself. And oh wait, hold on. I do remember when we got taken, but I don't remember what the circumstance was. I do remember there being like a situation with abuse. So I probably have kind of blocked out that part of my brain, but my mom did physically abuse us a lot. And then we would go to school and we would have bruises and things on us and things like that. And we did get taken from her. I do remember faintly a social worker coming to my school and asking about bruises and asking if we were okay and if we felt afraid of her and all this kind of stuff. And we did get taken, and I was put into a foster home with this lady. Her name is Miss Richardson. The best foster home I'd ever been to. Me and my twin sister both were there. My sister, again, had behavior issues, and I'll never forget when we got separated. To let you guys know how fucking young we were like, I couldn't even read yet, because Miss Richardson was teaching me how to read, and she was a teacher at I.E. Johnson School, which is in North Carolina, for those of you know that I'm from North Carolina. And I couldn't even read yet. I was in elementary school, guys. That's how young we were. We were probably like 3, 4, 5 when we were first in foster care, and then got back with my mom, and then she left us home alone, and then we got taken again. So fast forward to the second time that we got taken from her. That's where I have most of my memories, because I was a little bit older. When we were younger and we got taken from her because of abuse and things like that, I do remember the abuse, but I do not remember the whole situation around how we got taken and things from her. And when we got with her the second time and taken the second time, like, the abuse was still there. It was still there. And like, by abuse, I just mean she would probably beat us way too hard to the point where we would have welts all over our bodies. I remember a specific point where I made her mad. I did something, and I go to walk down the hallway, and she punches me in my back, and I fall down in the hallway, and I remember getting a big-ass knot on my elbow. I don't remember what I did, or what happened in that situation, but I do remember my mom had so much anger, and she had a lot of displaced anger because of trauma that she dealt with from my grandmother, which is her mom. And so the pattern kind of continued. Her mom beat her, so then she beat us. And then it just resulted in us being taken away from her. Now, Miss Cook was absolutely a terrible foster mother. And I'm pretty sure she was only doing it for the money. But when me and my sister were living with her, I'll never forget the time my twin sister, she had did something. I think maybe just being a little bit mouthy. Mind you guys, we are young. We are like elementary school. We have not even entered like teenage age. We are young children. My sister and I had endured so much abuse and, you know, so much just being here, being put there, being put here, being put into foster care here, back home, put foster care here. And I remember Miss Cook got her friend to come over. And her friend came over. I don't know why I'm remembering the name Brenda. I want to say her name was Brenda. But she brought her friend over and sat her big ass. She was probably like 500 pounds. Sat her big ass on my sister. And I remember screaming and hollering, stop, get off of her. As a punishment, y'all. A little kid sitting on her could have fucking suffocated her. And I remember screaming, stop, what are you doing?
What?
So then, because I was screaming and hollering, they took me to a room, and then they took my twin sister and put her in the bathroom. And they were in there. I heard a lot of tussling. I heard my sister screaming for dear life. It was just a lot going on. And then shortly after that, my twin sister got separated from me and put into another foster home with another family. But I think it ended up being a group home, which any foster kids know, when you're in foster care, the threat of being put into a group home was very much so a fucking threat. It was very much so scary. Nobody wanted to be put in a group home, but that was like the threat you got. And then I believe right after we got separated, they never told me. I literally came home from school one day and they told me she was gone. And they put her in another fucking group home. Didn't let me say goodbye. Didn't let me hug her like I was a piece of fucking trash. And that's what the foster care system is. They don't give a fuck about you. They took my twin sister when I was at school, put her in another place, and I didn't see her for fucking forever. It was a long fucking time before I saw her again. Then comes my money-hungry grandmother who decides, oh my gosh, I can get money if I take these girls. So then she decides to adopt us out of foster care. And that is really when our life of hell and abuse really fucking began. I'll see you guys in part 2.
With grandma?
Hey, y'all. Welcome to part 2. We're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. So you might be thinking, how do you know your grandmother only wanted to get you out of foster care? Because of money. Also, what happened to your little brother? Crazily enough, right?
It's crazy. People do the whole foster thing for the money. The money is supposed to be for the child. People be already well off sometimes, and they just greedy. Or people ain't never had nothing and ain't got nothing, so they want whatever extra. They could pay their bills. They could do whatever they want to do. And that extra money they get, they don't make sure that the kids are kept up. They don't make sure that boys have haircuts, the girls' hair is done. They have new clothes, have new shoes. And I'm not saying fancy or expensive. I'm just saying new. No, they have the bag they come with, and that's what they wear the whole time until they eventually grow completely out of that stuff. Kids just be looking a mess. The check's still coming. They only did it for the money. Sad.
Across the street from Miss Cook was my little brother's grandma on his dad's side. I don't know how that ended up playing out, but he ended up living with her. Unfortunately, she ended up also being very abusive physically towards him. But that's all I'll say about him, because that is his story to tell and that is his experience. But I'll tell you guys how we ended up eventually being reunited. But that's a long way down the line in the story. That's probably going to be in part 3 or 4 at this point. But let me give you a little bit of backstory about my grandmother. Okay. My grandmother was one of those women that probably should have never had children. She is the main reason why in this family tree, all of this trauma has trickled down through the generations. And that's why I really don't fully blame my mom for a lot of situations, because she was also a child that should have been protected by the person that was supposed to care for her, her own mom, and was not cared for. So she did not have any good examples of how to be a good mother and how not to use physical discipline in disciplining your children. My grandmother absolutely cared for men more than she cared for her children. Because of her, she was the reason why like my grandmother had boyfriends that would come and go, husbands that would come and go. She allowed these men to SA my mother pretty much the entirety of her childhood. So my mother ended up having a lot of trauma. On top of that, my grandmother was also abusing her. Did my grandmother love these men? No. She only wanted these men for money. That did not change in 2006, 2007, when she decided to get me and my twin sister out of foster care. When she got us out of foster care, she was getting a check for me and a check for my twin sister. It all fell into her hands so perfectly to get us out, because before this, my mom kind of stopped showing up to the visitation visit. We would constantly show up at this family visitation center. And at first my mom would show up and all she would do is cry. They would drop us off. We'd see her, but we could only see her for a little bit. At first she was coming pretty often to come see us at this visitation center. And then slowly but surely she stopped showing up. And I don't know if it was because it was too hard for her to see us, you know, and not be able to take us home with her. But every time she would see us, she would come, and at first she would be happy, and then she would like immediately burst out in tears, and like the whole visit would be her crying and saying that she misses us and she loves us and she wants us home. But you know, the cards were not in her favor when it came to that. So, and my mom had a lot of emotional maturing to do, so she couldn't deal with this. So she eventually just stopped showing up. Again, I am a child. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I don't know what my mom is doing behind the scenes. All I know is what I am seeing. My mom stopped showing up to visitation, and then all of a sudden, we're being told that my grandmother is going to get us out of foster care. But I'll never forget, I am in school, and I'm being told that my grandmother is outside. And I'm like, you know, okay, like getting excited. And, you know, but they don't tell me that my sister is right outside. Mind you, it has been so long since I've seen my twin sister. Like, to the point where I was starting to worry if I would ever see her again. I'll never forget walking out. My grandmother had this, I don't remember what the hell she was driving at the time. That doesn't matter. It don't matter. I remember coming out to this car, the sliding doors opening, and seeing my twin sister and being like, hey, oh my gosh, it's you. Excitement, overjoyed, so happy. And then hearing that we would be living together forever. And I remember us being in the back seat and me asking my sister, like, is this forever? Like, are we going to be living together like forever? Absolute, just overjoyed, just so happy to see her. And like, it just felt like a dream. It felt like a fucking dream. And then, you know, this is kind of like the start of like when things start to feel a little bit happy. You know, in the movies where like, it'll show you the family and everything is so happy and joyous and everyone gets along. And then all of a sudden, the movie is start getting slow-mo, and then you slowly realize that the whole family was killed in like some fucking tragic like car accident or something, or one person in the family died. It was like that. Like, everything at this moment felt so happy, and it felt so like this is the start of our new life. We were so fucking happy to be together and so excited, but we did not know what the fuck was to come of our life. So our grandmother gets us out of foster care, and we end up moving with her to Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. Before that, we were living in Laurinburg, North Carolina. My grandmother, for whatever reason, ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina with her husband, her then husband at the time, James, and her son, Tony. And yes, I will be using names in the story because I don't give a damn. Everyone in my family and my life knows this story, and everyone knows I have people to back this up. I have proof of literally everything that I'm saying, so I have no reason putting everybody on blast. So, Tony was a very troubled child, but he was my grandmother's favorite child out of my mom and him. He was definitely the favorite, but he had a lot of issues mentally, he was going through a lot at the time. I don't know if it was because of how he grew up, or not having a steady father figure in his life, but he was going through a lot at the time. My grandmother moved us into her house. At first, everything was great. Literally everything was great. We lived with my grandmother, her husband, and her son. We thought we were having the best life that we could, but things very quickly started to fucking crumble. We would have situations where we would get a real glimpse into the terrible relationship that was between my grandmother and her husband. I feel like in a lot of Black families where there's a lot of trauma, the one mistake that they make is not shielding the children's eyes from what's going on, and they don't give a fuck to argue in front of the children, say whatever in front of the children, expose things in front of the children, and that's how we kind of live. We would see their huge blowouts, their massive fights. He was constantly cursing, and he would confide in us when we were like little fucking children. Mind you, when we first lived with my grandmother, we are children. We are little fucking kids. He would confide in us for whatever fucking reason and say, you know, your grandmother isn't being right. I'm a good man to her. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about that. Like, putting us in the middle of their fucking fight when we're children and they're fucking grown-ass adults. Putting us into all their shit. But then the next day, they would act like everything is perfectly fucking fine. They eventually got divorced, obviously. I'll never forget the time so my grandmother at the time, she had a 3-bedroom house. The bedroom that they shared, me and my twin sister had our own room together. And then my uncle, which was my grandmother's son, Tony, had his own room. One time, I guess they got into a really, really bad fight. And my grandmother moved her bed into me and my twin sister's room. And we all stayed in our room, in that little ass room together. And he stayed in that room. He was a terrible fucking man. That is not at all the point of the story. But I just wanted to tell you guys that piece so you know that we literally went into her house and started witnessing crumbles of a situation. And it started to give us a glimpse of what our life was going to be like shortly after he ended up moving out. I don't know if after he moved out and she didn't have anything else to put her trauma-inducing fucking personality into and her narcissism into. But then after this is when she started to really, really zoom in on me and my sister and really trying to rip us apart from each other and cause a lot of complicated things between me and her. And then that's when the really heavy abuse started. It got to a point where anytime me and my sister would be getting along and we'd be together, my grandmother had to come in between it some fucking how. It's like we weren't allowed to get along. So then when we started butting heads, because my grandmother created this thing against us, like this competition between her and I, then my grandmother would use that against us and say, why the fuck are you guys fighting all the time? And then put one against the other when we would try to get along. So then this is really when my twin sister's behavioral problems started. And then this is when the more wicked and sinister abuses started happening to the point where, I mean, this shit should be on true crime. I'll see you guys in part 3.
We're going to go ahead and get into part 3. But before we get into part 3, I want to know how y'all feel. How y'all feel about, you know, keeping things private in front of children? Me personally, I feel like, yes, when it comes to an argument, a disagreement, all that toxic behavior in a relationship, and that's whether that's with your partner, your family members, your mama, your siblings, whoever, I feel like children should not be exposed to those type of things. I think it does take a mental toll on children. They don't know how to process that stuff, you know, and then they grow up because they've seen it over. I ain't talking about like a one, 2 or 3 times in their life. I'm talking about they see this like every day in the household or every time it's a holiday with the families feuding, different stuff like that. And sometimes people grow up and they're really monsters. Now, other times there are times where children see these toxic behaviors and they say, I'm going to be better than that. I'm going to put in work. I'm going to do the best I can to not be that. I don't like how that looked. I don't like how I felt when I witnessed it. I'm going to be better. But I want to ask y'all, how do y'all feel about it? Because I have seen some people on this here internet. I've seen some videos rather of people saying, let the kids see it. Let them see the real. It's time for the kids to see the real. Stop hiding stuff from kids. Kids are smart. Kids know this. Kids know that. Don't hide it from the kids. The kids need to witness it. And I just sit back and shake my head because what? Witness it for what? Yes, kids are smart. Kids can sense when something is wrong, when people aren't getting along, when someone's being abused. Kids learn the behaviors and learn the patterns of their parents. They know how to get parents to, you know, go against each other. They know how or which questions to ask what parent or permission from what parent. They know how to get around certain situations. But to say because kids are smart, we be treating kids like they dumb. They should see everything so that they know the world is not just a perfect place. It'll teach them a lesson. I disagree. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Let's go ahead and get into part 3.
You might be thinking of like, you know, what could possibly sinister and more wicked punishments mean for 2 little girls that she just got out of foster care. My grandmother's mom abused her.
Okay.
She was abused heavily by her mom.
Okay.
She had some SAing happening in her childhood.
Okay.
So then she instilled that on my mother. And then my mother distilled that onto us. Thank God we didn't go through the SA part with my mother. Because my mother, she just did not know how to properly discipline us without being physical. And then sometimes it got out of hand. Because I don't believe she knew what was too much. Even if it showed on our body. Meaning bruises and things like that. And when she would get upset, you know, punching us in the shoulder or pushing us too hard, I honestly don't think that she knew any better far as like what was okay. She had us when she was still a kid, when she was a minor, when she was a teenager. So my mom instilled that kind of abuse onto us. So then we ended up living with my mom's abuser, which was her mom. My grandmother does not think that anything is wrong with her mentally. So, of course, she started to instill those type of abuses to me and my twin sister. Me and my sister were like night and day when it came to how we cope with our situation. I became a very mute child. I stayed to myself. I was very quiet. If people would ask me, outside people would ask me what was going on, if there was anything going on with us, I would say no. Mostly out of fear. I didn't want to say anything because also my grandmother would also threaten to put us back in foster care. She would say 2 things to us when we were kids. As soon as y'all are 18, y'all are getting out of my house. She would say this while we were in elementary school, while we were little fucking children.
18
Always
is so far away.
When you guys turn 18, you're out of my fucking house. The second thing she would threaten us with, I could have sent you guys back to foster care. Don't make me call and put y'all ass back in foster care. We didn't want to do that because we knew we would be separated. We remembered how we were abused in our foster care. If you guys want a separate story time about that kind of thing, about the things that we endured in foster care, this is not what this story time is really about. So that's why I'm skipping over that. But if you want to know that, just let me know in the comments. So because of that fear, the way I cope with that was bottling everything up. Bottling literally every fucking thing up. The way my twin sister dealt with her trauma was acting out. She had behavior problems. She had very bad anger issues. She was fighting in school. She started talking back. She started just doing things around the house to basically take revenge on my grandmother. But my grandmother still favored my twin sister over me. So this created a lot of jealousy between me and my twin sister. I felt like I was a good child. I felt like I was a quiet child. I felt like I did a lot to stay out of the way. But my grandmother would still make it a point to put her favoritism in my face. She would do the weirdest shit ever to us. So things would be fine between me and my sister, but then she would like come in between us and be like, okay, now, Shell, now don't go in there trying to be all friends with her. And then later on, y'all start arguing because she don't want you in there anymore. Even though we'd be getting along. So this would make my sister leave. And it felt like every time me and my twin sister would try to have a bonding moment, my grandmother was there to try to split us up. And then she would take my sister and would bond with her, and they would have a good relationship with each other. And then I would come around and it would be like I was ruining the whole moment. And then shortly I found out exactly why my grandmother treated me so much shittier than she treated my twin sister.
And what's that?
Mind you, she was still abusing the both of us. But in her wicked mind, I guess it made up for my twin sister because she would always show favoritism. Like, she would still play us against each other while abusing both of us. It was the weirdest fucking thing. But every time I could just be sitting there, I could be doing homework, I could just be watching TV, and my grandmother would just come up to me and say, ugh, you look just like your damn mama. So I learned very quickly as a child that because literally me and my mom are like copy and paste. We look exactly like one another. When my mom had me, it was literally like a fucking copy machine. My grandmother can't stand my mother for whatever reason. I think it's also because my grandmother is jealous of my mother. And I also feel like it's because she has a lot of guilt because she knows what my mother endured living with her. So I learned right away that me looking exactly like my mom was a bad thing in my grandmother's eyes. But that was something I could not change. So because of the way that I looked to my grandmother, she made sure to show me her disdain and disgust for me while I was just a fucking child. Now, before I tell you...
Y'all, that sound real familiar. That couple I used to react to. The little boy looks just like his daddy. He's his daddy's twin. And if you watch the vlogs back then, and even if you watch him in current day, that little boy, he's a little boy. He gets treated different than his siblings. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that he's getting abused or anything like that, not to the extent of what she's talking about, but just acting a little funny. I actually, coming to think about it too, I actually see that in two couples that I've reacted to. One is a boy, looks just like his dad. One is a girl, she looks just like her dad. And there's a disconnect with the parent and a child. And you can see on camera I don't want to use a word such as hate, but it really is low-key hate. But the dislike for the father that's coming from the mother, that I think that hate, that dislike for the father spills on over to how these two mothers treat their children. Again, one is a girl, one is a boy, two different families, two different situations. But I see it in two scenarios, all people that I've recorded, all people that I've reacted to on this channel. But that's crazy. That's crazy. And I do believe that if a parent has a toxic relationship with the other parent and their child comes out looking like the other parent, that child gonna go through it. That's all I got to say.
About something terrible that I would do as a child that I'm really not proud of now as an adult. But let me tell you about the kinds of abuse that my grandmother would instill on me and my twin sister together. She was very evil in a way. I felt like she loved the anticipation, that the anxiety that she caused in us when we knew we would be getting a punishment. Till this day, as an adult, I have very severe anxiety, and I really blame my grandmother for that reason. So, the number one abuse that she would do was throwing us in the fucking garage. Mind you, whether it was hot outside, whether it was really fucking cold outside, snowing, she would throw us in the garage, and no matter what we were wearing. And I remember a time where she put us in the garage when me and my sister were wearing nothing but underwear and t-shirts. This garage that my grandmother had was not insulated. Mind you, there was like a little bit of space like this from like the ground, so it didn't even completely close. So whatever it felt like outside, it felt like that in this fucking garage. We would be fucking freezing in the wintertime. That's where she would keep us. And then she would shut the door and lock it. So the way the house was set up, it would be, you would come in and there would be the laundry room. And then over here is a door to the garage. There was also a door to the laundry room. She would throw us in there after beating us, throw us in the garage with whatever the fuck we had on, even if it was just underwear and a t-shirt and no socks. We would sit at the door. She'd shut that door, turn the lights off in the garage, turn the lights off in the laundry room, and then shut the laundry room door. Sometimes she would literally forget about us in this garage and keep us in here for hours upon hours upon hours. It was really a mental mind fuck for us, and that's what she wanted. She wanted to play mind games on us. She wanted us to feel this sort of despair and depression and defeat by putting us in this fucking garage after already giving us a physical fucking punishment. I remember a time she kept us in the garage for so fucking long in the winter, and we were so fucking cold. I remember our fingers and toes getting so fucking numb. We would cuddle up together, me and my twin sister, we would cuddle up together by the front door to try to feel any kind of heat coming in from underneath of the door. We would sit there and cuddle each other, and then when we had to go to the bathroom, so we would sit on this little, she had a little mat that was going into the fucking garage. We would sit on this mat and pee and urinate on ourselves because we had nowhere else to pee. It was completely dark. We could not see into this entire garage. So the only thing we knew was to pee right where we were. So then we realized really quickly that us peeing on this mat kept the mat warm for an extended amount of time. So we kept peeing on this mat and then sitting really close together on this fucking mat to keep fucking warm. And this, having these kind of memories and stuff like this and telling the story is really bringing back so many unwanted emotions. But I feel like people need to hear this. And my grandmother is still walking around like, you know, like she didn't just cause 2 fucking generations of all of this fucking trauma. So she would do things like she would get my sister out of the garage first and then slam the door, turn the lights off, and then have me stay in there for an extended amount of time. This, again, caused so much friction between me and my twin sister, and it really rewired how I felt about my twin sister, and our closeness started to turn into resentment. And this is when I did something that I'm really not proud of. I'll see you guys in part 4. Part 4. Heavy, 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 heavy trigger warning on this part of the story.
Okay.
This is going to be really hard for me to tell this part because of this particular situation, I have a lot of guilt myself. And I have had to work on myself a lot in therapy to get over this part of this story. But I'm someone that believes that if you're going to tell your part in a story, you got to tell the whole part, the good, the bad, and the fucking ugly. I started to feel very, very, very just completely depleted. I started to feel like I wasn't good enough. I started to feel like I was nothing because my grandmother constantly excluded me from whatever relationship she had with my twin sister. It really started to feel like they were trying to get rid of me. Mind you guys, I'm like 7 or 8 years old. Maybe 9 years old, maybe 9. I know that we're in like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. This is when this whole situation is happening, guys. In this part of this story, guys, we are in like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. Okay?
All right.
My twin sister passed away in 2021. This is a long years and years of trauma. But all of it goes together. Okay? And this just goes to show you, you know, what this kind of lifestyle of trauma does to someone's brain as a child. So because I started to feel like I was being excluded, I started to get a lot of inside anger as a child. I started to feel so much anger and so much rage as a child and didn't know how to let it out. I would try to tell my grandmother these things, but she would just beat me. She would just smack me in the face, smack me in the mouth, and give me a fucking like lump on my mouth before I went to school. She would scream at me, curse at me. She would call me fat and ugly. Her favorite thing to call me and my twin sister was ugly black monkeys. That's what she called us all the time. Ugly black monkeys. And if I would try to express to my grandmother how I felt of how she was excluding me while I was a child, I would always get hit or get called names or get fussed at and get gaslit. So that started to put so much anger and rage into me. So I started to do things around the house. I started to do things and blame them on my twin sister to get any kind of brownie points, any kind of like any kind of praise from my grandmother. Yeah. My sister, my twin sister, was always doing things. She was always getting in trouble in school for fighting. She was always, you know, talking back to her teachers. She got in trouble for stealing in school all the time, in elementary school, like stealing things from other people. And, you know, she was a child going through trauma. I was a child going through trauma. Neither one of us had any healthy ways of coping with our situations. So we cope with them in unhealthy situations. Because I was so craving this motherly love from my grandmother. Mind you, my grandmother never once gave me a hug, but she would always hug my twin sister in front of me. She never kissed me, but she would always kiss my twin sister in front of me. She never said I love you, but she would always say I love you to my twin sister and made sure that I heard it. But she never did that for me. She never did that to me. She never hugged me. She never said she loved me. She never gave me a compliment. She never made me feel like I was her granddaughter. I very much felt like just a person in their house. So, like I said, I started to do things. Whether it be, I put my grandmother's like purse, or put her, I put something that I knew my grandmother really liked. I put it in the oven. And so at first, this wasn't to be against my twin sister. This was just out of anger. This was just out of anger against my grandmother. I remember putting it in the oven and just watching it flame and cause all this smoke in the house. And then I remember my grandmother coming to see it. And I remember her getting so angry. I remember her getting angry and angry and angrier and angrier. And then I remember her looking at me and my twin sister and pointing the finger at my twin sister and saying, "Why did you do this? I know you did." Mind you, my twin sister didn't do this. I did this. But me and my 7 or 8 year old self, I don't remember if we were 7, 8, or 9. Just know, in between this part of the story, I'm either 7, 8, or 9 years old. My child brain is like in fear of my fucking life right now, because I know if I say I'm the one that did it, I am going to get beat and then I'm going to get thrown in the fucking garage for probably a day and a half, hours, who fucking knows, but I would be thrown in the garage after receiving a physical punishment. So I did not want that to happen, so I kept mute. My grandmother distilled so much fear into me as a child. As soon as she would say anything to me, I would immediately go mute out of fucking fear. My whole body would feel like it was going to collapse. I felt like I was dying. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My heart would beat so fucking fast. I swore I could see my heart beating through my shirt. So much fear and terror in a child all the fucking time. My sister would say, "I didn't do that. That was not me. I don't know how that happened. I did not do that." And my grandmother would say, "Yes, you did. I know you did it because you're always doing something stupid." Nothing happened after that. She did not receive any kind of punishment. Mind you, my grandmother would always try to play these sick games to pin me and my twin sister against each other. So after fussing at my sister about whatever the fuck I put in the oven at the time, she would say things like, "Why can't you be like Shonda? Why can't you be like Shonda and be good and be quiet?" So then I felt this internal, this sick joy, because I heard my grandmother for the first time give me a compliment. For the first time in my life, she was giving me a compliment. I couldn't fucking believe it. And she was doing it in front of my twin sister where she could hear. That fueled something in me because I was craving that so much from her. So then I started doing more things around the house and putting the blame on my sister. I would use the oven a lot of the times. I would put things in the oven. I would cut things up. I would throw things on the wall. One time, I remember I threw nail polish all over my grandmother's bathroom. I would take things around the house and pin it on my twin sister. I was literally the little girl from hell. Like, that little kid, y'all ever seen that movie, damn, I'm gonna forget the name of it, with Macaulay Culkin, and he was like the bad child. I wasn't doing anything evil as far as like, I wasn't hurting my sister or anything like that, but I was causing her to be hurt, because then my grandmother would turn around and abuse her. And eventually my grandmother just said, oh, the hell with it. I'm not going to keep doing this with you anymore. And so she stopped punishing my sister for the things that I was framing her for. And then slowly but surely, my grandmother started doing the opposite of what I wanted. I was trying to frame my sister for things so that she would get in trouble. But then every single time my grandmother would give her a physical punishment, I would feel dread. I would feel absolute devastation and dread and sadness and just hurt and just pain. And I hated myself. And I didn't understand at 7, 8, or 9 years old why the fuck I was doing this. I didn't understand why I was doing this. I didn't understand why I was trying so hard to get my sister in trouble. And then when she would get in trouble, I would feel just absolute crushed. But then my grandmother stopped giving her a punishment for anything that she was doing. And it started to be like, oh my gosh, that's just what Shell does. And then the abuse towards me started up again. The exclusion towards me started up again. The constant name calling and physical fights and all this kind of stuff and putting us against each other and excluding me from things started happening all over again. My plan didn't work. I am now continued to be excluded. So I became a mute child, and I became a self-mutilating child. I will see you guys in part 5.
All right, y'all. So for now, we're going to take a break right there. Okay, we're going to take a break there, and we're going to come back with part 2. I'm going to do a part 2 to this because it's a couple of parts on here. I think she said that it's supposed to be 8, but I actually see more than 8. So we're going to stop right here and we're going to get right back into it. I just want to say that this is a very unfortunate situation, and no child deserves at all to go through any amount of abuse, physical, mental, verbal, abuse. And all I could think about is how excited she was to see her sister when she got out of school that day, and to think, okay, this is possibly forever, or I'm hoping this is forever for them two to be together. But the whole time while they're together, and this is a forever thing or whatever, your grandmother, your own grandmother, not just some random lady that's just trying to get a check, your grandmother who's just trying to get a check, is basically forcing y'all to not like each other, getting in between your relationship, getting in between your bond. You've already spent time apart, wondering, is my sister alive? Will I ever see my sister again? Will I ever find my sister? You're wondering these things all the time, and then you guys reunite. And because the grandma's punching bag is gone, she had a punching bag, the guy that was there before, he's gone. The punching bag is gone. Now she is just here to torture you. And you're a kid, 7, 8, 9 years old. You need attention, you need love, you need affection, and she doesn't give that to you. She gives it to your twin. So you start to show out and do little evil things around the house and pin it on your sister and blame your sister so that you can get some acknowledgement, so that your grandmother could possibly love you or show some love to you, just for your grandmother to get accustomed to the things that were going on around the house and then start back the abuse with you. And now your self-esteem is declining. The love you have for yourself is declining. The love you have for your sister is declining. And now you're wanting to harm yourself. That's crazy. Y'all let me know what y'all thoughts are down below in the comments section. We will be back around for part 2. If you like videos from me and you want to see more is to come. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, because right now, King Day is out. Peace. The motherfucking building.
Run it up was up. JBRISKO, not know when was up. Run that shit, we had all the show. Say that shit for your camera.